Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Mimic 2CG, and today we're doing some Pauper because we all love Pauper. It is probably the most popular, or one of the most popular formats on Magic the Gathering Online, and I've been playing a fair bit of Pauper with some other decks and I absolutely love it. And I thought, you know what, I love me some mono red, so let's do some mono red, let's do some burn. Everyone likes burn. Well, I mean, unless you're playing against it and it smashes your face off, then obviously we don't like burn, but I thought we'll have a look at burn. I've got some other, some other red decks coming as well, but let's start with this burn. Burn's a popular format and kind of like a staple deck in pretty much every format. Definitely modern, certainly in standard at the moment. Different ways to play it, and obviously it's pretty solid in Pauper as well. My theory being, if something is good in modern, and there's a few similar cards available in Pauper, that's worth looking at least. So Burn is a very fast style deck that focuses on dealing a lot of damage very quickly to your opponent's face. Because of this, it's often sort of like recommended as a good starting point for new players, because they're reasonably easy to pilot. Our burn decks doesn't take a huge amount of thought to go, yeah, I'll just burn your face, yeah, I'll burn your face, yeah, I'll destroy your creature, burn your face, kind of thing. So in that respect, they're easy to pilot, and they reward clever plays. So it's not because they're going burn. You sometimes have to do a bit of thinking. It definitely rewards more experienced players for like type plays, and it can punish you for making errors in your play. So there's a bit of like risk reward kind of style, I suppose. The more you play with the deck, the more you'll learn the deck, and the more you'll learn your matchups, and the better you'll become at playing burn. I've not played this deck yet, so when we get into matches, it might take me a little while to sort of get used to this deck and used to what we want to do and when we want to do it. But let's get into the deck itself. So, unlike its modern counterpart, the Pauper version runs a lot more spells. The modern version is often seen running a few more creatures. We currently main board we only run two creatures, but playsets of them. We'll look at those now. We've got how do I bring this up? It gives you Lava Runner. How do I make you big? Oh, apparently I can't. Okay. Let's scroll down the bottom and bring you up here. Weird. So we've got the Giti Lava Runner, the 1-drop. Obviously this is play in standard at the moment, in standard mono red aggro. Probably in other things as well, wizard aggro, like a prowess wizard kind of deck got going on. Anyways, it's 1-drops, 1/2, but it gets +1/+0 and has haste as long as we've got 2 instant and/or sorcery cards in our graveyard, which we definitely will have very quickly. So that's one of our creatures. Pretty good value, really. Fast and aggressive, fits well in the removed you apparently. Fits well in the sort of burn aggro style that we're going for. The next creature is Thermo Alchemist. So Thermo Alchemist is a 2-drop for a 0/3 with Defender. That's fine. It's good, right? It stops all the weenies, and also we can tap Thermo Alchemist to deal 1 damage to each opponent. But then whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell, we can untap Thermo Alchemist. So you always want to end your turn, if possible, with Thermo Alchemist untapped, so we can use our lovely Human Shaman as a blocker, which is good. And then in response to, say, removal for it, we can tap it to hit our opponent in the face. We can block. If it's going to die, we can block before damage tap to hit our opponent in the face for 1. And obviously with all these 1-drop spells, we tap, burn, play a spell, untap, tap, burn. It's quite aggressive and pretty good. So there are only creatures in the main board. Onto the spells, most important bit. Spells are important. This is how we win games. We've got a playset of Chain Lightning. Our Chain Lightning is essentially a lightning bolt. I want to bring you down the bottom. Let's take a look. I'm sure you can make you large somehow. Anyway, so Chain Lightning deals 3 damage to any target. Then that player or permanent's controller may pay 2 red. If the player does, they can copy a spell. And so basically, we can lightning bolt our opponent, but if they have 2 red mana, they can lightning bolt us back. Against decks where they're not running red, this isn't an issue. We just burn them in the face for 3. They can't do anything about it. Against other decks that are running red mana, you know, it's a risk we've got to take, but you know, we're not too concerned about our life. Life is a resource, and we'll be, even if they do use that, we can definitely outburn them. Unless they're also in burn, then that definitely comes out of the deck against fellow burn decks. We've then got 2 copies of Firebolt and 2 copies of Lava Spike. Now this could probably just be 4 copies of Lava Spike, or even 4 copies of Firebolt. The reason I've split it is because Firebolt has flashback, so if we're flooding out and we've got Firebolt in the graveyard, we can flashback Firebolt for 2 damage. Lava Spike deals 3 damage to target player or Planeswalker. Planeswalker is irrelevant in Pauper, so it's basically just 3 damage to target player. Whereas Firebolt is 2 damage to any target, so Firebolt's got a bit more variance than Lava Spike, but Lava Spike does a bit more damage, so I've split it 2 and 2, see which I prefer. I'm sure people will have an opinion on which is better, but for me, I'm just sort of playing, seeing what I like, and then we'll adjust and adapt depending on what I feel works best for me personally. We've done the Lava Runner, and then we've got obviously our Lightning Bolt. The main reason that this deck is a thing. Lightning Bolt is a staple card across many decks in both Modern and Pauper. I mean, one red for 3 damage to any target. If you're not running Lightning Bolt in Burn, you're silly, and you should be. Yeah, not much to say about it. Lightning Bolt, 3 damage to any target for 1 red. Brilliant. There you go. We are running, excuse me, we're running Needle Drops. We want Needle Drop because we need a little bit of card draw, but also, you know, fine. It's only 1 damage to any target that was dealt damage this turn, so we can like Lightning Bolt our opponent or Thermal Alchemist our opponent, and then cast Needle Drop. Great thing is it's instant speed, so we can hold up some red mana. And say in their turn, we can use Thermal Alchemist ability and then Needle Drop. Or, you know, you can instant speed. It makes this card infinitely better than it would be if it was just sorcery speed. So, yeah, run a full playset of those. Do it. Let's do the spells. Let's do the spells in this. Our 2-drop spells. We've got Searing Blaze. Running 2 of. So Searing Blaze deals 1 damage to target player or Planeswalker and 1 damage to target creature that player or Planeswalker controls. I'm wondering if this should be in the sideboard, actually, to be fair. As often, you may come up against decks that haven't got creatures. But I've got it in the main board. I'm just seeing. So yeah, 1 damage to target player. Essentially, the Planeswalker bit's irrelevant. 1 damage to target player and 1 damage to target creature that player controls. However, with the landfall ability, if a land enters the battlefield under our control this turn, it deals 3 damage to target player and 3 damage to that creature instead. I'm now considering putting that in the sideboard, but whatever. And our next 2-drop is, it might not seem great, but Curse of the Pierced Heart. This is a card that is very much just in Pauper Burn. I haven't seen it anywhere else. Not even in, like, I mean, there's better cards in Modern for the burn, but it's a 2-drop, and it's just 1 damage to our opponent. I mean, you can enchant yourself if you want, which is silly. I wouldn't, but so enchant player, which would be your opponent, and at the beginning of that player's upkeep, Pierce Heart, Curse of the Pierce Heart does 1 damage to them, which basically means if we've got a Curse of the Pierce Heart out, we can always use Needle Drop. So yeah, and you know it's an extra 1 damage. Get a couple of those down if you just happen to draw them. No harm in that. It's 1 passive damage a turn. It speeds up the clock. You know, it is what it is. And then on to our 3-drops. We got a playset of Rift Bolt, does 3 damage to any target. However, what we want to do is we want to suspend it if possible. So you pay 1 to suspend it, and then you essentially cast it for free. Well, not for free, but you cast it next turn. So a lot of the time, if that's in your opening hand, you pay your mountain, then you will suspend Rift Bolt. Skew the Critics, again, it's a 3-drop, but we will hopefully be casting it for a spectacle cost. So spectacle, you can cast a card for a spectacle cost as long as an opponent was dealt damage this turn. It's essentially a slower lightning bolt, basically. But you can lightning bolt and then spectacle skew the critics. 6 damage for 2 mana. Hey, that's good. Then we've got Magmatic Sinkhole. I've got Magmatic Sinkhole 1 of in here to. It's mainly in here for big creatures like Gurmag Angler that we will find difficult to deal with, and that puts us on quite a quick clock. Again, potentially it's sideboard option. So maybe Searing Blaze and Magmatic Sinkhole need to go in the sideboard, and we bring out something from the sideboard into the main board, or we just take some things out. But we'll look at that later. Like I said, we'll play with what we've got, testing things out, and we'll see what like I said, we'll see what we like. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Play with what you like. Anyway, our kind of like sort of like win condition, or our like big finisher, really. I mean, all of our spells will happily finish off the opponent, but I think our main one is, or our big main finisher is Fire Blast. Because yeah, it's a 6-drop, so if we're flooding out and draw it, then fine. But the main reason is we can just sacrifice 2 mountains instead of paying its mana cost. So we can play all our spells in our hand. So we can sacrifice tapped mountains. Doesn't specify that they can't be. And it just does 4 damage to any target. So yep, that's that. Or you can tap to float mana. So if you had Fire Blast and Skew the Critics, float some mana, sacrifice the 2 mountains that we've tapped, and then play Skew the Critics for spectacle cost. It's pretty good. Onto the sideboard. The sideboard is definitely very specific. The options in here are for certain decks. So we've got 2 Electrickery, and this will come in against decks like Boggles and Elves. Also anything that's like running weenie decks. And what Electrickery does is it's a 1-drop for, or costs 1 for 1 damage to target creature you don't control, or you overload it, and it will deal 1 damage to each creature you don't control. So it gets around that whole like hexproof thing, because it's not targeting anything. It's just doing damage to each creature. So that's where that comes in against Boggles, and obviously Elves. It's just a big board wipe for all the weenie decks out there, and so that's that. We're running 2 copies of Martyr of Ashes. This is essentially, again, another board wipe. If we're finding our opponent is going wide, or they've got Boggles, we'd probably bring in Martyr of Ashes as well. It's a 1-drop for a 1/1. Pay 2 to reveal X red cards from your hand. Sacrifice Martyr of Ashes, and it does X damage to each creature without flying. I've got Skred in here, hence, well, I'll do the lands in a minute, but I'm running Snowlands because I've got Skred in the sideboard, and this is for, again, like Gurmag Angler and stuff, big creatures that we'll find difficult to deal with. Um, again, if I was to put Searing Blaze and Magmatic Sinkhole in the sideboard, maybe I put Scred in the main board. Maybe not. So Scred deals damage to target creature equal to the number of snow permanents you control. We've got 16. So, for 1 mana, you could be dealing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage to a creature. So that gets rid of all the big dudes that we would struggle to deal with. Whether Scred's the right choice for this build, we'll find out. The next on the list is a whole playset of Smash to Smithereens, because that's going to come in obviously against Affinity. We can blow up their lands because they run artifact lands, or creatures and stuff. And then also on the upside, it deals 3 damage to that artifact's controller. So destroy an artifact and burn their face. So what's not to love? Screw you, Affinity, basically. Running some Molten Rain, that's going to come in against Tron. Destroys a target land if it's not basic. Deals 2 damage to that land's controller. So yeah, that's a screw you Tron. But we're only running 2 of those, as we also have 2 Volshock Sorcerers. Again, this is good for dealing with like weenie creatures, because it does 1 damage to any target, so it's take out the elves and stuff. But also, if necessary, it's just a bit of extra burn to our opponent's face if we're in that situation. There are other options, definitely some stronger options for the sideboard. Things like Pyroblast is like he must have against blue decks. I haven't got any. They're quite expensive on MTG in comparison to everything else. But it's Pyroblast. What does it say? It's counter target spell if it's blue, I think. So basically, counter a blue spell, destroy a blue permanent. So good against like mono blue ninja decks, mono blue control decks, or not even mono blue, just decks that run a lot of blue spells. So that would be like an instant upgrade, running 3, 4 of those, depending on like if you're playing in paper, depending on your play group, like what you're coming up against a lot of. There's also things like Flaring Pain, which is a good option to have if you're coming up against a lot of decks that run Circle of Protection Red. Circle of Protection Red briefly is a card that this deck struggles against. I'll get to the pros and cons in a minute. But so if you're coming up against a lot of Circle of Protection Red, then maybe having Flaring Pain in your sideboard is a good idea. Another option is Gorilla Shaman for Affinity. Gorilla Shaman is a 1-drop. It's a 1/1, but you can pay double X, basically pay XX to destroy non-creature artifact with casting costs equal to X. So basically you can pay 0 to destroy Affinity's lands, essentially. Right? It's a pretty good option for if you're going up against a lot of Affinity. Maybe have that in the sideboard. Other options. Relic of Progenitus for like lots of graveyard matchups. It's pretty good option. Especially it lets you draw a card as well, so that's always good. Another option is like Fire Slinger. It's similar to Volshock Sorcerer, but it's just a 2-drop. It does 1 damage to any target and then 1 damage to you, but it doesn't have haste. So there's those. Onto our lands, which I totally forgot about. 1 Forgotten Cave lets us cycle late game if we're flooding out, and then 16 of the snow-covered mountains because of the Scred in the sideboard. The pros of running or playing Burn, definitely that it's a fast deck. It's relatively easy to pilot. It will reward good/type plays, and it rewards the more experienced players. The more experience you have with the deck, you'll notice that the rewards outweigh the risks. The cons, it will often struggle against life gain decks. There aren't many, but there's some of the life gain lands. Some of the decks run quite a lot of those. It's weak to Circular Protection Red, which is an artifact that lets you pay 4 to prevent damage. Hence why we have options for that. I mean, we've got Smash to Smithereens, which will deal with that. So it's not terrible, but it does struggle against those sorts of decks. Sometimes you'll find it might flood out and you're not drawing the right answers or the enough burn to deal with your opponent quickly enough. And like I said, it punishes. It can punish mistakes and bad plays, but on the whole, Burn is a easy to pick up deck and a good starting point. Especially if you're sort of getting into Magic or into a new format, Burn's a good place to start for any of the formats, Modern, Pauper, or Standard. So that's that. This is my build. We'll do some games and we will see how we like this build and make changes as necessary. If you have any recommendations, let me know. Leave a doodly doop. A doodly doop would be a comment. Yeah, so I mean, let me know what you think about Searing Blaze in the main board or Magmatic Sinkhole in the main board. Is 4 Fire Blast the right call? I think it's too many, or potentially too many. I definitely don't want to see it in my opening hand, that's for sure. Anyway, this is my build. This is what we're doing some games in, and we'll do those shortly. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to be doing more Pauper. I'm really enjoying Pauper at the moment. I'm messing around with Pauper loads, building loads of silly decks and stuff. Yeah, so stay tuned for those, especially if you're into tribal stuff. I love me a good tribe. Yeah, so that's that done. I'm out. Peace.